The Wiggles was one of the many TV shows I worked on during my time in Australia. The show is about four musicians from Australia, singing songs to kids. However, things have changed in the show. In 2006, Greg left the show, because he had poor health. He was replaced him with a guy named Sam. In 2012, Greg came back. But later that year, that's when things got out of hand. Murray and Jeff retired from the series and Greg left again. And now the new Wiggles are Emma, Simon and Lottie. I quit working on the show due to all of this. I'm from Australia, and I used to work at the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. I had been working closely for the Wiggles. One of the ladders is the showrunner, creator, writer, and dictator behind the Wiggles. I was hired by Stephen O'Donnell and the company to write story ideas for an episode, but because I hadn't even seen the show, it was more of an awkward experience. I quit working for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation because 1. It was rough, 2. I didn't want to work on the new Wiggles because they had got out of hand. I moved out of Australia and moved into the United States. I was on my computer while listening to Feel Good Inc. by the Gorillaz, but a package I didn't recognize arrived in the mail, a box. I opened the box, and the box had a disc inside. The DVD cover page was just words saying, The Wiggles, the Siphon. I was confused. The Wiggles hasn't had an episode like that, because it was only supposed to be one word with all season 2 episodes of the show. I was curious to know what the episode could be. I opened the disc and started to play it. It was rather interesting, as it had main menu. One option was to play the episode. The other option was labeled description. I selected the description and it said the following. This is a lost episode of The Wiggles, which is titled as The Siphon. It was meant to be the finale of the 2002 Wiggles, but scrapped after its production was done. The creator of the show created another finale for the show. However, this replacement is reasonable. This episode was lost for being too disturbing and dark for the series. If you are a fan of The Wiggles, we must tell you that this is not a hoax. Viewer discretion is advised. I was pretty confused at this point, because, when I watched the show there were no title cards before the start of the episode of The Wiggles. I then selected play on the main menu. But then after 2 seconds, the entire screen went to black. This went on for about 10 seconds before the episode began. There was no intro. It started with Jeff on the couch. He was pretty ecstatic, as you can tell by the facial expression. Greg then told the viewers that Jeff's watching one of his favorite shows. Just then, a prop spider fell onto Greg's forehead. Anthony, the blue Wiggle, with no hesitation, took a sledgehammer and smashed the TV into bits, as parts of the television started to fly everywhere. Greg, obviously infuriated, then goes to Anthony to let him have it, but then Murray, the red Wiggle, pulls Greg back. Murray suddenly whispered something to Greg.
Listen here, brother, Dorothy's coming over, and I want you to have sex with her so I can make a sex tape. I asked myself why would they say that in a kids show? After the scene was shown, a new scene begins with Captain Feathersword, but he had red eyes, made like that by what looked like contact lenses, but the pirate ship where Captain Feathersword is on was doing a pretend battle. The frames in the animation skip every 4 seconds, but the sound remains synced. After an unruly performance of his pretend battle, the pirates are seen in the crowd clapping for Captain Feathersword, very common for them. The scene pans to Captain Feathersword's play. A crowd of people were sitting in the play. They were booing at Captain Feathersword as he walks back to his ship with his hands in his eyes. What's odd is that the scene actually shows him walking to his ship, with nothing happening in the background, for 3 minutes and 50 seconds before abruptly cutting to red for another 20 seconds, until he arrives at his house. The next scene starts slightly differently. The Wiggles are seen getting in the big red car. Anthony is seen holding a book titled Smoking Causes Lung Cancer. Indeed, this scene looks a little different. The show used computer-generated stills to render its backdrops, but these stills were of lower quality. All of them are seen swearing, ghetto style. Greg was seen saying, "Yo! What up, motherfuckers?" Murray says, "Eat a dick pussy." Anthony says, "Faggots." And Jeff said, "Yo bullshit nasty."
It then showed a clip of Murray during his Five Little Ducks performance. There were captions on the screen saying, but none of the Five Little Ducks came back. The problem was, I could vaguely hear whispering during the clip. I initially thought my mind was not messing with me, but it wasn't. After the full clip was shown, things really went out of hand. The screen entered the static and finally exited. Jeff was wearing a black hoodie, black baggy jeans, and black combat boots. It was strange to see Jeff dressed that way. And even though his hood was up, I could tell it was him, but I could also tell that something was wrong. An eerie chill crawled up my spine, and I was about to turn it off, when a blood-curdling, fear-filled, high-pitched scream blasted through the stereo speakers. The pitch and the volume of it pounded in my ears. It hurt so much that I had to cover them. I thought that they might kill my hearing. It went on, for what felt like hours. Finally some fading text came onto the screen. Then after a few seconds, the text disappeared and the static began to quickly flicker. What was worse was that the static noise was even louder than it was before. It was literally hurting my ears. I was about to eject the DVD when it showed a still image of Greg and Murray sitting in Dorothy's garden, like it was on the DVD. There was white noise in the background, which made it creepy, because they weren't doing anything. Usually there would be happy or cartoonish music playing in the background, but instead there was just white noise. About 30 seconds later, the noise slowly becomes louder, and then the screen slowly fills with static. While the static was covering the screen, a pair of red eyes could be seen in the background. Then once the static covers the screen, it stays like that for a few seconds. A concert starring the Wiggles started to go bad. The Wiggles started laughing and they flew to the moon. The children were crying in the background. And suddenly, there were displayed shots of the other Wiggles with bloodshot eyes, and laughing along with Henry the Octopus. As the crying became louder, Henry the Octopus started to decompose to nothing but bones. I felt so nauseated. The worst part is that the children crying was also mixed with chainsaws, gunshots, and glass smashing. Anthony walks to the kitchen. Outside there was a pine cone with a gun in it. I later found out her name was Sawyer J. Pinecone. She was going to try to kill Anthony. The episode cuts to Wags the dog. He was ordering something off of the menu from a BBQ restaurant. The employee wouldn't let get him barbecue chicken at all. The employee whispers under his breath, "There's a pinecone near my house that wants to kill you. Point." Wags got really pissed and stabbed the employee in the head in what, by Wags' perspective, was self-defense. There were sounds of Grey Delio screaming and blood splashing still present. This time there were just colored blurs moving around a black background making really unsettling noises. It played like this, until it got to the end, however this time it cut straight to the coming up next screen for ABC Kids in Australia which simply said up next. It's bananas in pajamas before cutting to 7 minutes of static.